Hi, my name is Kevin O'Mara, and welcome to NetSuite's webinar. We're going to give folks just a couple of minutes to, about 4 more minutes to join before we get started here. So make sure we can get everybody on the line. Thanks, and we'll talk to you in just a minute. For those of you just joining, we're just waiting a couple more minutes, about 5 minutes after the hour before we get started today, and we'll get this kicked off as soon as possible. Hopefully we're just holding out just for another minute. It's 5 minutes after the hour. Get things kicked off. Okay. Thanks for joining, everyone, for the NetSuite Campus Bookstore webinar today. Just a quick reminder that at the end of the presentation, we'll be raffling off for a Yeti cooler. Yeti keeps things cool. Again, thanks for joining us. My name is Kevin O'Mara, and welcome to NetSuite. As we can see kind of from this first slide, it took me a few minutes to really understand it myself. But really what NetSuite is about is what's next and how can we be ready for it. So what we're going to share with you today is how can we get you on the road to be ready for what's next. And of course, we like to keep our lawyers happy here at NetSuite and Oracle. Make sure that we share with you our safe harbor statement, not to make decisions based on future products. but on products that are currently in the system. And with that, we'll jump into the NetSuite agenda. So we're going to take a few minutes here to go a little bit over a NetSuite overview. Then we're going to share a little bit about Ready Next. Suite success, what is it? Why is it important to me? What's next from NetSuite? And then finally, we're going to go through the campus bundle presentation by John Farley. So a little background for NetSuite, and we'll keep this pretty short, but NetSuite is the first cloud company, and it's the largest cloud ERP company in the world today, and now, newly, a part of the global business unit of Oracle Corporation. So with the investment that we're getting from Oracle, we expect this chart to get a lot bigger and a lot more exciting as the years come by. So if we were to go back just a little bit in history, into our history, NetSuite got started in 1998. And one of the first pieces that NetSuite really was designed to solve is really created to solve the on-premise hairball that was happening in companies around the world. And thus the name NetSuite, the suite to cover a business solution to solve the hairball that all companies were doing. And so now when people moved from mainframe to client servers, point solutions were created and really created this hairball problem with different systems trying to talk to each other in different languages and having to maintain all of that. And NetSuite made this possible and solved that problem. Suddenly, everyone has been preaching cloud as a magical cure for all of this. However, many cloud products were not written for the cloud. The owners just host them and charge for them on a SaaS basis. The end results are the same as on-premise, though: integration nightmares, version lock, and the like. And the same results manifest themselves: data fragmentation, processes sit in silos, there are multiple user interfaces, broken transactions, and no single version of the truth. But this is really what NetSuite was designed to solve, first for the premise and now for the cloud. Our philosophy is really, we are a built-for-cloud-first company. We're not premise that was brought in the cloud. We were built and made for the cloud. We're a business platform on a single data model to run your entire business. I've had many folks ask if, are you a POS or an e-commerce or an order management solution? The answer is yes to everything. We cover the full business aspect to be able to run your business from front to end. Multi-subsidiary, multinational, and multi-currency, built for retail and built for campus stores. But the Unified Cloud Suite was really just the starting point. We knew we needed more. First, we wanted to make our customers happier. And second, we wanted to bring what we learned from our customers to other companies making the same transformation. And third, we wanted to make it easier to consume NetSuite innovation, which brought us to Suite Success. This is really the next phase in our evolution. We can't deliver to customers if you don't build it that way. We've verticalized solutions focused on the entire business needs, not a specific workflow across many industries. Instead of starting from scratch, we're loading pre-configured solutions for retail and campus stores to jumpstart the implementation and get you from zero to live in a much faster, rapid rate, really seeing the ROI. What we show you, what we've presented to you, is what we deliver to you. Each vertical, sub-vertical has its own KPIs, dashboards, partners that are built for NetSuite, customer records, all built in, all based on our leading practices, and our leading practices are here to support where you want to go as a business. how we're engaging customers has actually changed as well. What we're moving away from is the idea that we show up and what would you like to do and where do you want to go, and we'll design that in the software. Now we're really leading our customers through our experiences with tens of thousands of customers that we've deployed already. We'll say, we'll sell this way and deliver this way. How much out of the system can we be utilized of what we've already put together? And then what we can do is separate out the things that are special and unique about you and focus on those smaller areas of customization and innovation, and allow us to really take care of all the standard business processes that are happening in retail stores and campus stores out of the box.
I think they lost their audio.
Instead of selling everything we have, we now look to see where our customers are in the evolutionary phase and where we're and creating a foundation to build on. A lot of companies come in, they start with the front end or they start with the back end. And what we found is that we need to start with a firm foundation to really build the business on. Typically, most retailers start with a remediate phase to start that foundational footing to build on. But what we're seeing with campus stores is they're really starting with remediate, expand, and innovation really as that starting point, because we need to cover the full aspect of the business. But we still have a lot of room to grow, enhance, and transform the business along our evolutionary trail. Gone are the days of getting all customizations in the first phase. And if you've been a part of many IT projects, you know what I'm talking about. If we don't get it in phase 1, it's probably not going to happen. Phase 2, 3, and 4 never happen. With NetSuite, the idea here is that we're wanting to get you alive faster, simpler, so that you can realize that ROI much, much sooner in the phase. And what this allows us to do is you have the ability to continuously optimize the solution as you use it, as you get used to the solution. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and as you get into the solution and use it, you could really see and optimize now that you're using it and working in it from a day-to-day process and getting the most out of NetSuite. So what's our next as NetSuite? This comes back to, obviously we're talking about optimizing steps and suggest that we're not standing still, but with the resources of Oracle, we are investing heavily in a NetSuite solution to ensure that the most modern, flexible, relevant solution is in the marketplace. Our next is about more. We're adding local offices to support our customers in 13 countries in order to support global business. We're adding 6 data centers around the world in order to develop even more capabilities and adding 4 more development centers. This is to help develop more industries, more products, and ultimately more success. And with that being the general overview, more specifically for campus stores and campus store bundle, here are some key features. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to John Farley, who's going to walk through a high-level overview of the campus bundle. John Farley.
Perfect, Kevin. Thank you very much. So everyone, while I switch over my screen here really quick, I'm seeing some messages from everyone kind of coming in on the Q&A that Kevin's audio was having some issues. Hopefully I'm going to be coming through clearly. I am on a landline, so if I am not coming through clearly, it'd be something that was somebody else having an IP phone that might be causing that issue. So hopefully it's going to get clearer for you all as we go through. I'm going to switch over my screen, and you guys should see that here in just a moment. As we're going through, we are going to hold questions till the end. You're very welcome to go and put questions into the QA section, and we'll have some people monitoring that, and we'll address those at the end. But I'm going to take you through our campus store bundle from a 40,000-foot level. I'm not going to get down into all the click-throughs and everything else, something we can do with you more on a one-on-one basis when we have quite a bit more time. Okay? So here I am. I'm in NetSuite. You should be looking at my main screen here. First thing I want to do is kind of review a couple things when it comes to items, specifically textbooks, and then also with customer management. Okay? So when I'm looking here at this textbook, this is my parent item. So tied to this parent item, I will have a new version. I will have a used version of that book. But this is the parent that holds everything within this specific title. What we've done for Campus Store specifically is we've added some areas to be able to manage this really with the needs of what you guys have. Right? If I look at this, this is an item that is available for rental. Okay? I can rent this textbook. Other things that we'll do in here is this a pickup only, meaning we won't drop ship this item directly from a publisher. Or is this a pre-orderable textbook, meaning this could even be used for trade books as well. It's something that hasn't been released. It's something that we're going to take pre-orders on, build up those back orders, and then we'll sell those out as we go. So there's things that we're putting in here to be able to manage that. Also, if we look down here, I have all these different sub-tabs. This is where I'm going to manage specific areas within this textbook. So things like the title, the author, the publisher, print date, cover type, hardback, softback. Is it loose leaf, or is it a spiral? Right? Digital. Is this a book that we have set up with digital? So right now we're set up with Red Shelf, and we'll have CEI coming, but this is where we can specify this is a Red Shelf item, and as it gets sold, it would go through those approvals. Pickup. Is this a item that will allow for store pickup? What locations will this be available for store pickup? And will we have any specific instructions around those? But then approved adoptions. So and I'll get into this in just a little bit, but as a book is getting adopted for a specific term, I will have that adoption record linked up to the book, right? And I can see that here as far as what course it's tying to, the class number, section, etc. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But then also rentals. I'm going to switch over to my specific used book here. Here is where I can see all students that have rented this book, when it was rented, when it's due back. We even have the ability to set a refund date. So here up until October 17th, this book can be returned by the student without any harm, without any foul, for a full refund. You'll be able to set those rental schedules, and you'll be able to set up when that period starts, when that period ends, and when the cutoff is. All right. Last thing I'll show you on here is just within the inventory record itself. NetSuite is set up to manage inventory across multiple locations.
As they, chose that as an option. Yeah. So I think all that. So I was thinking. So
I'm hearing a little bit of audio in the background from someone else. I don't know if someone on my team possibly doesn't have their phone on mute. If you could please mute your line, that'd be great. So here I have inventory in my main store, but we also are going to set up multiple virtual locations. So this might be in the same store or within a warehouse that's attached. But as we do buybacks, as we're doing buybacks for specific wholesalers, we can put these in, put those books into holding buckets. Also, what we'll have is a rental holding bucket. So when we rent a book that is a book that you still own, would sit on your book still, right? But we will move it into an area that's non-sellable. And you can see that rental holding right now. So I have 6 on hand in the store. I have 7 that are out at rent, which we'll be receiving back at some point. Okay? So that's a quick kind of glimpse into some of the things we're doing on the item. Now, from a customer standpoint, here we have Aaron Dunbar. Aaron is a student that we'll work with as we go through. We will be holding some information specific to him, right? As far as does he tie to a specific school? We do have some people that have multiple schools that they manage, or maybe it's one university, but we have a law school with a separate curriculum from the rest of the university, so we'll be able to denote where they tie to. Do they have any third-party payers? In this case, I have the Edward Lewis Memorial Scholarship Fund that is a third-party payer for Aaron, and we can end up billing them out through our system as well. A couple of big ones, though. Is he rental eligible? Is he a student? Is he a student in good standing with us? Does he have a credit card on file in case we need to charge him for a non-return? All that goes into the rental eligibility. So in this case, he is rental eligible, and when we get to point of sale, we'll be able to rent to him. Is he buyback eligible? Right? Have we had any issues with him in the past trying to game the system, and we're not going to do buybacks from him? In this case, he is buyback eligible. And then if I come down here, being able to manage customer IDs, so his student ID, when that's effective, you will be able to put in multiple student IDs. It's one that we know that students will lose those over time, right? And they'll get them replaced with a new ID and a new start date. And then the last one I'll show you here. Here are Aaron's specific rental books. We can see here was one that he rented. We can even see that this was returned to us, so it's not something we're going to look at charging back. All right? So now let's move forward and let's start working with some of these books. And I said that everything kind of starts with the adoption, right? Oops. There we go. So adoptions can come in multiple ways, right? It can be you're working with Verba Collect and you have information coming from them, which we can import into NetSuite. It could be that you have a third-party source that you're getting that from because you don't have the ability to get that from the university due to your relationship there, right? That can be imported as well. Could be that you have a professor that just emails you the information, or a professor that calls in. In that case, someone within the bookstore can come in, enter in a new adoption, and they can enter this record in. Now within this, I can look at this specific to a school. I can look at this specific to a term. So I'm looking at University of NetSuite here for my spring 2018 term, and these are a list of all my adoptions. Might be that somehow we end up with duplicate adoptions. Right? I can change the view here, and now I can see a list of duplicate book adoptions by course. And now as the book manager, I can go in, I can manage those. Are they truly duplicates? Do we have some double entry, or are these actually two different adoptions we just crossed up with maybe the section number, right? So very easy to see this on screen, be able to look at this information. I'm going to go back to that previous screen, and let's open up one of these adoption records here. I'm going to open up this Intro to Accounting. Now within this record is where I can see all of that adoption information. Here's the school, here's the term, even the department code, so we can filter these by department as I'm working on a specific department. Professor information, course and class section information, estimated enrollment, right? How many do we estimate are going to be enrolled in this class versus how many can we actually carry? And then down in the next section, the book information. What book is being adopted? And then pulling information in from that item record that I just showed you as far as the ISBN or the book author. I got asked the other day, do we have to have the book in our inventory if, for a new book that's being adopted? You don't have to have it in your inventory file. It's one that we can go out and we can pull it from the your wholesale book list and get that information. Eventually, you'll have to have it in your inventory so you can purchase it and go through the process there. But the great thing is, if it's a book that we don't have in the item list, we can go out and get that information and bring it. Okay? So now that we have the adoptions and we have all that information in here, as the buyer, right, I'm going to go and start working these. We're going to go into our item manager screen. This is where I can go in and filter down, in this case, right, what school and what term am I looking for. I'm going to filter this to my accounting department because I'm just going to work within that. And then it's going to give me a listing of my courses and then the items that tie to that course and section that I'm looking at. I just pre-filled this in to save us a little time for our demo. But I want to point out this up here where it says previously worked. Okay? What if there is a adoption that I've worked and I've put in my information and then I have a new section that gets added? or we get updated enrollment information, I can go in and I can open up a previously worked record. I'm going to open that up here, and now all that information comes forth, and now I can make some changes. I can make some updates to this. So what we're seeing here, first of all on the left, information about the item record, right? The book, there's that author information, etc. What do I currently have on hand? This is what I have in a new copy and a used copy, right? 14 and 18 respectively, right? What's my current pricing? But then also, right now, what do I have that's been purchased? Currently, I have 50 of these out here on purchase orders to come in at some point, right? I have 7 open rentals that are out there that I can expect to come in. If I roll down here, I can see information on the current term as well as historic terms, right? The courses that were adopted for, the enrollment capacities, etc. Right now, I have this just going to a couple of previous terms, so fall of 16, right? Was the last time I had it. I could open up and we could look at more historic terms if I wanted to. But from all this information, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start, looking at and entering my information. What are we estimating for sales? In this case, right now, I have that set as 150. What do we expect to get from a buyback? Right? From what I sold previously, how much do I expect to get buyback? I can enter that in, as well as speculative buyback beyond what I think I'm going to get for my own purposes. I can set buyback pricing here. I can also put in, what do I have reserved for the term? Of what I have on hand, what do I expect to continue to have, right? Or what is it that I don't want to charge back if I have the ability to send everything back on a chargeback? So that all these numbers, and even my rental quantity that I expect to come back, is going to dictate how many I need to look at purchasing. So changing any of these numbers, let's say maybe we expect, I'm going to push this up nice and large. I expect I'm going to sell 200 of these. When I recalculate that, now it's taking into account what do I have on hand, what do I have coming in, what do I expect to get back from a rental and from a buyback. So this is what I need to look at purchasing additional to all those numbers. Now, I can also dictate who I want to source this from. So right now I'm going to set this up, Follett, MBS in Nebraska. The multi-select list, so I can select all. I can select just a couple if I want to. And what I can do now is I can go and now mark this as worked. That is going to now mark this as worked and push it forward for me to now be able to push this out to a want list. Okay? I could go and hit order immediately, which would create a PO specific to this title, specific to the sourcing option that I set up. So in that case, I would just select one. So create a PO for me immediately. Delivery of that PO is up to you. Is that something that we email out of the system? Is that something you fax out of the system? Will we have some sort of EDI communications set up with that wholesaler? Or are you going to call it in? So delivery is up to you. I'm just going to go in and mark this as worked. Keep in mind that quantity that we need to purchase is 118. And now it's updated that record for me, and I can move on to the next thing that I want to work on. I'm going to point out, do you notice how I keep jumping from tab to tab? Because Windows is, we are browser-based and we work in different windows within NetSuite. I can have multiple things open at any given time. So I could be working here on this item. I could jump out to look at something else, come back to this when I need to. Okay. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go and open up my want list here from my menu. This is where I can now filter down. What do I want to look at generating a want list for? So let's grab University of NetSuite and let's grab that spring term. Now, from that sourcing option that I set up in the previous step, I can dictate who do I want to look at creating a want list for. Right? I'm just going to do it for Nebraska. So what it's going to do is give me all those things that I had set Nebraska in that sourcing list. Anything that I had set for another wholesaler independent of Nebraska isn't going to come up on my list. So now I'll go ahead and submit this. It's going to give me that search, right? And here's that book, right, for Nebraska. Right? There's my college accounting. Quantity I'm looking for is 118. Now, the information that I have on here, because this is a search, right, I can add additional fields. I could add additional filters within this if I wanted to. If there's information on here, you say, you know what, I don't need that information for my want list. You can make an adjustment to it and you can take it off. But now I have this list. This is what I want to send out to my wholesaler. So I'm going to export this, send them that file. Right? They're going to go through, they're going to look at it and say, all right, John, you want 118 of those, right? We can, right now we can offer you 40 of those. And they can update that spreadsheet line by line. Here's what we can, we're going to promise and hold for you. They send that back to you. From that file that they just sent us, we can now go and import that back into NetSuite as a purchase order. So it's going to create a PO with all those items, with all those quantities on it for us, right? That PO to be received at some point. And then the next time I come in here, that quantity to purchase is going to be reduced by 40. And now I'm going to be looking for that balance. Go and run this for my next wholesaler, send that list out to them. Go through that process again, go to my third wholesaler. Keep going through that in a round robin until we've exhausted those sources, and then you can spin this out or look to go out to marketplaces or even to the publisher for the remainder of your balance. So we've talked about managing the items. We've gone through the adoptions. We kind of went through the want listing. So now I'm going to switch over, and let's actually go do a transaction here. I'm going to switch over to a different machine. This might just take a moment to switch over. Perfect. So this is my point of sale. I have this running on a completely different machine. Let me get signed in here. This isn't going to be a full session on point of sale and doing transactions and all sorts of different types of transactions and returns. It's really going to be about doing a book transaction, right? Since we're talking just about textbooks. We can do a whole nother session for about an hour just on point of sale. So let's go in here. Let's bring up Aaron Dunbar. He's coming up. He's bringing some books. So everything that I have that I do on the back end replicates, helps when I type his name correctly, replicates over to our point of sale. So a customer that I add in point of sale, I have in the back end. A customer that I put in the back end or a customer that registers through our website is also available at point of sale, right? Even though there's multiple points of entry, it's all one system. So I have Aaron here. Aaron's going to bring up a book. I'm going to go and scan that title. And this is showing me that college accounting. This is listed as a used book. You can see right over here on the left by the image of the book. And it's also telling me this book is available for rent. Okay? If this wasn't a rentable title from that checkbox not being turned on the item, I wouldn't see that there. I could sell this to him right now, or we can offer this for rental. He says he's interested in renting it. So I'm going to open up my menu here. I'm going to hit Rent Item. Now what it's going to go through, it's going to just go through a little validation. So if I have multiple schools and multiple terms at any given time, I can select that school and that term. And now for that term, here's a listing of all those rental durations that I have available, right? 30, 60, 90, day terms, 100, day terms on here as well, and the individual pricing. So I'm going to select this as a 90-day rental. And when I end up selling that to him as a rental, right, it's going to set those date parameters that I showed earlier. When's the start date? When is it due back by? When can I return it without having any, without any harm or foul? And now you'll see on the line, it's faint. It's probably doesn't come through well on the presentation that we're doing here, but on my side I can see this is a rental. And now I can go and add another item if I choose, right? In fact, let's go and let's add this book right here. This is a new book. This one's available to rent as well, but he's not interested in renting it. He actually wants to buy that. So now we have a total, $178.68. I'm just going to complete this out, cash, check, credit card. Since I'm not connected to a credit card terminal, we'll just do this as cash. Now, this isn't what your receipt will look like. This is all the system info, but I want to present this to you so you can see some of the key information. So when I had that book that was rented, here's that 90-day rental. Here is showing him on the receipt. This will print out nice and neat for you, right? What's my rental period? What's my start? What's my end? And even here, October 19th, for a refund cutoff, right, that he can get a full refund on the book. You'll have messaging that you'll set up as far as rental agreements. You'll see there's a signature line here where he can sign the receipt, and now you have a signed copy of that rental agreement of what they've agreed to do. Clear that out, I'm on to the next transaction, I'm on to the next student. So point of sale, right, we just want to make it quick, we want to make it easy, right, let them get through the line as quick as possible. So now we get to a period later on, and I'm going to go and need to sign into my NetSuite here on this screen, so bear with me just a moment. And let's actually take back some books, okay? I want to do a rental return and even a buyback here. This is something we do in the back end of NetSuite. Getting logged here. So the big key is as books get presented by a student, we want to validate, is that a book that they've rented? Is that a book that is eligible for buyback or not? Right? Looks like it's not letting me sign in on this machine. There we go. Let me just come in here into my transactions, and we're going to go into an item acceptance transaction. So we'll bring up Aaron again, right? We want to know who the student is that is doing the return, so we can validate against that rental record. And the reason we're going to put the term in here, which we could do as a lock-in, we could lock that down during the given buyback periods. We want to know, right, is this rental return? Is it meeting the time frames that we have? Is it not meeting the time frames that we need? So let me go in. Let's scan that rental book. Okay. I'm going to pull that in. Scan the wrong barcode. I got a sheet here with about 8 barcodes on, and I scanned the wrong one. Okay, so here it is. There's that title. This is telling us this is going to be a rental refund, and here's the refund amount because he's within that first 2 weeks of the semester. If he was outside of that, this would just be a rental return. It would be $0. Okay, I'll go ahead and add that line. Let me go and add another book here. Oh, looks like I had already rented that one as well. So if it wasn't a rental return, it would say retail buyback here, and it would be showing us the total amount that we would buy that book back based upon our guide that we have set up. We're going to accept these books back. We're going to put them onto the shelf where they need to go, right? And then they would get their refund out of the point of sale system where the drawer is tied to. So that's doing quick sale, right? That's also going in and doing some item acceptance and taking items back that we're either doing through a buyback or that we're doing through a return. So now, let me switch back over to my other machine here, and let me finish some things off with chargebacks, and we'll get into some Q&A for everyone. back over. There you go. See a little flicker in your screen. Buffering. There we go. So I'm going to come over here. This is a purchase order that I pre-built, I received, I even built it all the way through ahead of time. So as you do those purchase orders, right, receive them in, then it goes to a billing stage. That's all, one flow for us within NetSuite. I don't have to use multiple systems. But on the purchase orders, one of the things that we'll capture coming over from the vendor record is what is the return policy? What is the chargeback policy that we have on this? So this was just my standard chargeback policy. I had a 5% return, so 5% of my items can be returned. What's my minimum days before returns? What's my maximum days, return allowed? Right? That's coming over on that record. Now, if it is a special purchase that they're giving me some additional, either extending the max returns or changing these dates, I can override that, given I have the security to do so. Also, here they have, please call first before returning to get an RMA number. It's not going to stop me from going through my process, but it's something I need to know about to say, all right, created my RMA, I need to get approval before I start pulling those items. So these will run, and you'll just do these day in, day out. And then we have a routine that runs in the background. It's a scheduled routine. What it will do is it will look at all new billed purchase orders, and it's going to create a chargeback allowance record for us. So here we have, on this title, for Baker and Taylor, it created this record for this item on how many I'm allowed to return. So in the case of the amount I bought and 5%, I can return 1. If I look at one of these others, I can return up to 50 on that one on chargeback. So this is now setting up the list for me of what do I have available to do a chargeback. And it even is giving me my start and end dates here, right? So when can I start doing a chargeback for this item? When do I have to do that by? Great thing here is if I'm taking a look at this on a regular basis, or maybe I even push this to my dashboard with a reminder, is I can stay on top of those books that I have still that I can do a chargeback, and I'm not going to miss a date, right, as far as an end date, and not get books sent back because I wasn't paying attention. The system can let me know when those dates are and when they're coming up. So from here, right, what you're going to do next is really going to depend on your environment. If you're multiple stores where we have books across different locations, we're going to do run a pullback routine where we can pull those titles for chargeback back to the main store and then create an RMA to send out to the wholesalers. If you're a single store, we'll do the same type of routine, but really what it's going to do is put those books into one of those virtual locations, right? So it's not my sellable inventory. People won't see that available online to be able to purchase because now I'm putting it in that holding tank, and then we'll create an RMA that we can now pull those items, get them boxed up, get them returned out to the vendor. If it is one, like I had mentioned, you do have to get an approval. What you can do is that RMA that we create in the system, email it off, export it, send them that file and say, hey, here are the books that we're looking to do a chargeback on. Right, please give us approval, and then we'll get them sent back. So cleaning up that process on the chargebacks to really make it so where you're not having to go and do a lot of manual intervention to create those returns, to create the document. We can do it through this whole chargeback. I'm just going to navigate here back to my home screen, and look at that. I finished right on time. We wanted to leave about 10, 15 minutes here at the end for Q&A. So, Jolene, I don't know. I'm assuming that you've probably been monitoring the Q&A box. Has there been any questions come through? Anything other than we're having audio issues come through on the Q&A text chat?
Yep. Right now, we do not have any outstanding questions, but for those on the line, if you do have any specific questions, we did go through this very quickly. If there's any specific questions that we can answer, please type them into chat and we can get back to you. John, I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to revisit.
No, that's what we had planned to show.
Okay.
Of course, it was going to be a high level. What I did is took some of the key points to show within the time constraints that we had here. Normally this would take us an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours possibly. So, looks like we do have a question that just came through from Evan. And before I answer that, Abby, I don't know if we can open up the phone line so people can ask the questions, or if we're just going to use the chat, so I'll let you look at that. But Evan asked a question: what credit card gateways are supported on point of sale? And we do have multiple credit card gateways. Some we are promoting over others, especially with Freedom Pay, because Freedom Pay is going to allow us to hold a token against a credit card for rentals if someone doesn't return it, so we can charge that at a later date. But we do have multiple credit card gateways that we can talk to you about that aren't only just point of sale, but back end in NetSuite, and as well as for online through the web store as well. Some of the big names on that: CyberSource, eMerchant Solutions. I mentioned Freedom Pay. SoluPay is coming on as a new provider. So Dale from Missouri: can rentals be refunded at point of sale in lieu of buyback? Yes, rentals can be done at point of sale. Buybacks do have to go through the ERP terminal, though, just because of some of the routines that we need to run there in order to receive those back into the right places. Dale also asked another question: has there been discussions with VitalSource about ebook integration? I know, Dale, we've had several discussions with VitalSource. I don't know if we've had them specifically on ebooks, but that's something that we can check into and absolutely get an answer. So, Abby, are we able to open up the phone lines, or are we just going to have to deal with the Q&A box?
I think that if we go ahead and submit it through the Q&A, that is the easiest way.
Okay. I'd like to say that everybody is frantically typing in their questions right now, but maybe not. So again, we wanted to give you just a high-level view of what we're doing in the Campus Store bundle. I know that a lot of people have been waiting to see it. My counterpart, John Ream, and I just recently got access into it, so it's great for us to now have this ability to show and to demonstrate to everyone. And we definitely see this as just kind of being the precursor to more in-depth and larger demos with you, more on a one-by-one basis. I think we are planning on probably doing a longer session than this and recording that, so it's something that could be shared with you and you could watch at your leisure. But until we get that done, we'll just be doing demos kind of in person or virtually in person. Yep, I'm seeing
there's a handful more questions. Great.
Yep. So Evan Taylor: does your product include the ability to have an online web store, or do we need to partner with additional companies to provide this functionality? Great question. So Evan, we do have an integrated web store where you can have all your general merchandise up there, as well as then have the ability to sell books on there with course lookup, course section, getting to the professor to find that book, and then presenting that book as far as all the options that you have. Is it new? Is it used? Do we have digital available? So great question, but yes, we do have a fully integrated e-commerce solution. We could connect with some of our partners. However, the ability for the textbooks and what we've built there would not be available right now. So Jacob from BYU, Idaho, actually asked a couple of questions. Does point of sale have offline mode? Yes, it does. The point of sale does run on a Windows-based machine, and all the information is replicated to that machine from an item standpoint, from a pricing standpoint, from a customer standpoint. So if we ever maybe we lose power, right? And you can run power just to a laptop. You could still keep going if it's one that you wanted to. Maybe you have game day sales where you're out of the bookstore. Connectivity is not possible. It can run in offline mode. Okay. And Jacob, you added the same thing, same question, VitalSource. Is it in the roadmap for an ebook vendor? Again, I'm not sure, but we can definitely find that out. And then Julie Banks says, tax returns process, track outstanding credit memos, or integrate with accounting modules, cutting off of the system. I can take that question a couple of different ways. I'm assuming you're talking the tax returns for chargebacks. So yes, for chargebacks, it would create a vendor return. Now, that vendor return can result in either a credit memo for you to use against payables with that vendor in the future, or it could be that you say, all right, this is going to be in the form of a check that we're going to get back, and then we'd be expecting and tracking that check to then accept back in as cash. So everything that we're doing on the chargeback side is definitely tied in with accounting and payables. Jacob, more questions from BYU Idaho. Can online store offer rentals for textbook? I can't remember if we were setting that up for rentals or not within pickup within store. Kevin, take note of that. We'll follow up with you on that, Jacob. I believe we can set that up. The one that, with Duckstore, who is live running textbooks on their website, I just haven't seen it offered on there, and it could be that they just haven't decided to offer it, as opposed to us not being. We should be able to offer that online. I'll just need to get you more of a definitive yes than I have for you right now. This is kind of fun doing Q&A this way. Normally it's just me getting peppered with a bunch of people in a room, and so.
This is Kevin. With some of the questions around VitalSource specifically, I've spoken at length with VitalSource, and I know the team has. I think part of it is just as we have more and more customers online, what's the demand for it, and adding that into the roadmap. It is in the roadmap, by the way. When and where, I'm not 100% sure. Either way, if there's something that's not necessarily offered in the out-of-the-box version of the roadmap, NetSuite integrates with thousands of people every year, thousands of different technologies every year that are not necessarily productized connections. It's not, it's something that we can always add in. It doesn't necessarily have to be a productized version, but it is in the roadmap.
So new question coming in from Evan Taylor at University of Dayton. So any integration with Banner for financials or SideQuest for e-procurement? And the answer is for Banner, yes, right? That is something that we have integration for. For SideQuest, it is something that is possible. We actually do have a school right now that does use SideQuest, that they're in implementation. The direction that they wanted to go was going to be more of an in-house by them and building that integration versus us doing the integration directly. But the ability to do SideQuest, yes, that is something that can be done. Not something that's in the bundle or offered right now, but it is absolutely something to do. I have two other schools that have been asking us about that as well, that we're going through that process. Evan also asked, do we have an interface to Seaboard, Odyssey, or CS Gold? Yes, we are working with Seaboard with their CS Gold product to be able to look at using funds off of the student card. We're actually in discussions right now with them to set up the formal relationship between them and Oracle, and that just pulls in people that have to sign off for legal and determine what that relationship's going to be. But yes, we are going that direction. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So at this point, let's actually just close the Q&A session. For those people that have more questions, and I can guarantee you in about 15 minutes you're going to say, man, why didn't I ask about that? Or it could be you just don't want to ask within this forum. By all means, get with Kevin, get with Julene, get with Caroline, get with Madeline. Send them those questions over. We'll be able to get those answered for you quickly, and we can look at having a larger session with you. Last question, it just came in. Jacob, that's a loaded question. Can you provide food service solutions? There are some things that we can do around food services. There are some things that we cannot. So that's a much bigger discussion for us to have with you all outside of this session with just dealing with campus books. But we do have some people that are doing food service, but it's more quick counter type sales versus a lot of the back end management. So, Julene, I will turn it back over to you and Kevin.
Yep, great, thank you. So I will, a couple of just brief announcements. Thank you for joining us. There were some technical difficulties that we are aware of. So if if it was difficult to hear, or if the screen kept buffering, then we are going to make sure we have a clear recording, and we will get that out to everyone. So our apologies there. I wanted to announce, I'm not sure if Kevin touched on this, we did just go live with with BYU. So if you want to check out their new website, BYU, and then we're live with USC and the Duck Store. And then finally, the winner, we have the Yeti that we did a drawing, and I just got the name, Jacob Hinsey. Let me just see who he's with BYU of Idaho. So I think that Kevin on the West Coast works with them. So we will circle back around with you, Jacob. And if there are any questions as you walk away, jot them down, and we will make sure to follow up. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to talking with you down the road. Have a good afternoon.